Do you hate lead generation? It's a serious conversation. This is a real conversation. This is a real question. And we're going to show you ways that you can stop lead generating the ways you used to do it. There's a new way. Maybe there's a better way. We sit down with Pat Kilner, author of Find Your Six, and discuss ways to throw out lead generation. Special thank you to our sponsor, Greg Kingsbury with Vela Mortgage. I
hate
lead
generation.
What the hell are we talking about? You've got to read Pat's book, Find Your Six. We don't like lead generation. I'm so excited today, folks. I get to spend the next 30 minutes talking with a dear friend of mine, Pat Kilner. And if you've been watching People, Passion, Power over the years or listening to it, Pat's been a guest on our show before. But today we've got some pretty exciting news that Pat is going to share with us. He's a brand new author, folks, and just released his first book, Find Your Six. And I am so excited to talk to Pat about this, although I'll share some behind the scenes with you. Pat and I have been talking about this book for about a year or two. And I'm just thankful that he's on the show and wants to share with us what he's discovered. And I promise you we'll get something out of this. We're going to talk about lead generation a little bit. We'll make it a little bit specific to real estate agents. Maybe we've been doing it all wrong. I think Pat thinks so. Pat, welcome to the show. Congratulations on the new book, my man. I love it. And I'm so happy for you.
Well, Jason, thank you. It's an absolute honor to be here. And yeah, you heard about this book before it took form. So it's really cool to actually see this full circle and to be having this conversation live with you here.
Tell me, I know the beginnings of it, but where did we come up with it? Like, how did you... What's the root of this? How did it come to be?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to, I thought, because people ask you, so why'd you write a book? So where'd you come up with this?
Yep.
And I think the simplest way to understand this is I wanted to, and we're sort of, because we're in COVID, we're talking about inoculation all the time. I wanted to inoculate my new team members against the idea of lead generation, because of what I was seeing lead generation do, not just in the real estate world, but also outside of the real estate world. I'm a big student of other service industries in particular, and what I was seeing the impact of lead generation having on those industries and what I could see it having on real estate slowly but surely as I coached and trained agents who had been doing this for years, who all of a sudden weren't getting the same ROI out of the same old lead gen tactics that they had been using for years. And I saw that with financial planners, with people in fundraising, basically you name a service industry, and I was seeing it happen. And we could certainly talk about goods as well, you know, but that was what I saw was this, and to dig at that a little bit deeper. So, okay, so what's wrong with, what's at the root of lead generation? And what I saw was that it was making great people with amazing ideas and things to deliver to the marketplace actually disruptible. Like their businesses were getting disrupted. And it's a slow thing, and then it happens all at once, as most things tend to do, right? There's a little bit, it starts to, you go, maybe that's just the market. But after a few years, all of a sudden, lead gen started to come up, really bite people, and then they didn't have an answer. So I wanted to give people an answer to becoming truly disruption proof as they became great at their craft, right? So people become awesome at their craft the longer they're in this. But I was watching people who became great at what they did, but also were becoming more disruptible. And so that's the reason for the book. I wanted to give people a new paradigm, a new way of thinking about how to build a business, and really to rethink business development from scratch.
I love it. And the pieces that I like about it is, excuse me, I look at it, and you and I have talked about this so much over the years, like the traditional forms of lead generation, the grind that it is. Like this book is an injection of energy into how to develop all of the business that you want, but it's a new way of thinking about it. It's a people first approach, isn't it?
I think so, right? And we're in a human business, and I think, you know, if you're in business, you're in a people business, and frankly, you're in a talent business. So you and I know, as we've built organizations, we talk about talent internally to us. I wanted to shift the conversation in this book to what is the talent external to your organization that also helps drive the growth of your organization. And what I want to propose to people is that if you go find just 6 of those people, you can take your organization, your career, your business to a totally different level.
So let's stay there, because I think that's the meat of it, and we're going to it right away. So find your 6. Who am I finding? Where am I finding these people? The basic questions everybody watching that hasn't read the book yet, you're going to have these questions. Then you get to read the book, and we're going to answer the questions. Pat's going to answer the questions for you, but let's give them a little look inside. And of course, we'll tell you, we'll put the link of where to get the book, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But where do we find these people? Who should we be looking for? Why 6?
Yeah. And I've gotten the question, what 6, right? Because before you read the book, you don't even know what you're looking for. So the subtitle is Stop Lead Generating and Start Building Influence. And in the book, I talk about the 6 influencers that you need to go find. And I'm not talking about social media influencers, right? Which is oftentimes, you know, that's what we associate immediately nowadays with influence. I'm talking about people that can have an outsized impact on the growth of your organization, the growth of your career. You may not be an entrepreneur. You may be an intrapreneur. You may be you may be working in a government job here in DC. You can still find your 6, and it can radically impact your business. When I started researching this, I thought I was going to start writing a book more for my new agents about the mentors to put around them. So I started talking to people at the end of their careers who had very illustrious careers, done exceptionally well, people 65 plus, maybe they were already out of their career. And I interviewed about 60 of these folks over the course of, 9 months or so, and just took copious notes. And I had a blast. It was so much fun. And going into it, just open and asking, who have been the major people in your career who have made the biggest difference? And I talked to people from all sorts of walks of life. And I would just take notes on that. And what I found is that for these people, these very high performers who had enormous success, the average number of the people that had been massively impactful for them over the course of their career were 6. They were mentors. They were accounts, major decision makers at major accounts that they had. They were people that they had the opportunity to serve as clients. They were people who had connected them to other great people in their network. And so I started to realize this is more than just a mentorship conversation. This is a bigger conversation. And so I started to ask myself, if really high performers accidentally find 6 over the course of a long career, how could we codify this and actually help people find those 6 in 6 months or a year? What would that do to your career? And so that's the 6. That's really where the 6 came from.
Can I tell you that just feels like such a relief? Like, it's only 6, right?
Like, this is not you don't have to go have 600 or 6,000, which is how we think about things in a lead gen paradigm. We just go, it's just fill the funnel with as many leads as possible. This is go and set an intimate table for 6.
Yeah.
And you're the person at that table who's making the connections, who's having wisdom distributed to you, and it's reciprocal, right? Yeah. And who's being connected to all of those people's influential spheres, their tables, if you will.
Got it. So we're clear with everybody. This is applicable to almost any industry, what we're talking about. But Pat's background in real estate, we can narrow it there, since a lot of our audience watching today will be real estate agents. So tell me about 6 people that are in your world as it relates to real estate specifically and your real estate business. Give me some examples of the people that are in your world and how you incorporated them into your world.
Yeah, so I tell a story in the book about a guy, sort of my first influencer, and maybe this will be helpful for newer agents. You and I got into this business at a similar time, and we were doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden, 08, 09 hit, right? And so everybody's scrambling. Half of the people in our offices and nationally got out of the business, went from 1.5 million people to 750,000, and it was like, what is going on? And good, really seasoned agents getting out of the business or retiring early, as would be gracefully said. And what I realized is that I had been doing, everything, knocking doors, pounding the phones, FSBOs, expires, withdrawals, everything you can imagine, investors, right? And I had been doing everything that had been served up in a lead gen format to me. And it was winning me awards, but it wasn't enough. I just saw my business start to get hit, and it wasn't enough as I saw sort of the wave of disruption coming for the real estate industry. And back then I've got, three little kids and got to provide for them. And of course, as you know, the family's grown. So, okay, it's go find a different way or go take an early retirement and go find a different job. And so I remember that stress, and that stress caused me to call a friend, actually call a bunch of friends. But one of the first ones I sat down with, and my criteria was I wanted to find people who had clearly weathered storms in their careers, because that's what I was going through. So I sat down with Jerry, and Jerry, an attorney from this area, DC metro area, super accomplished, been through multiple economic cycles, incredibly well respected. And I sat down, I was like, how did you do this? Not how did you lead generate, but like, just how have you weathered the storm? And I just took copious notes. I remember him just everything from, here's how I work out, here's how I spend family time, here's when I get into the office, here's how I work and focus. It was awesome. And I still take lessons from that conversation. So he invested into me right away. At the end of the conversation, he turns to me and he goes, all right, I've been in this business for 3-4 years. I'm still sort of cutting my teeth. And he says, Pat, you're gonna be really good at this business. I was like, we didn't talk about me at all, but here he is telling me that I'm gonna be good at this business. Now, granted, I came with really good questions. So the first lesson is go to these conversations with really great questions, because that's an investment in and of itself to people. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. Then he says, so you're going to do really well. I'd love for you, if you run across anything that would be a good investment property. I don't know anything about real estate, but I do know that I can trust you, and I'd love for you to bring opportunities to me. So first, he's asking me to be in business with him. And this is someone I could not have imagined ever having this type of relationship with. The second was, he then turns to me and goes, listen, I'm going to go back to the office. I got to go to court right now, but I'm going to connect you to 2 other really awesome business owners who I know. I think you're going to love them. So now he's putting his name to me. He's connecting me to other great people. And guess what? Those people, as soon as Jerry tells them, hey, you got to meet Pat, it's a done deal. I walk in that door, and what I thought to myself as I left that meeting was, if I could have a conversation like that every day, I'd have more business than I know what to do with. And that's what I started looking for early in my career. I was very, very fortunate to have disruption, have people in my sphere who I could go to and just go, how do you deal with this disruption? Right. By the way, I think as business owners, we kind of got to look forward to disruptive realities in our business. And that's a different conversation, perhaps for a different day, but disruption is coming for us all. So we've got to shift, and it's all about the people you have around you. So I shifted, had this conversation, and he became the benchmark for the types of conversations I wanted to have every day.
I want to pause for 1 second, because you went over it and you hit on it. You just reached out from a curiosity standpoint from somebody you respected, and just reached out just to have a conversation.
Right.
That was it. Your intention was not to get, is Jerry, right? Did I get that?
Yep, that's right.
And you and I have talked about Jerry before. Your intention was not to get business from Jerry. Your intention was just, you're curious.
Yeah.
And sorry, there's an ambulance going by. You were just curious. And that curiosity led to one of your most fruitful relationships.
And I think that's disarming. Right. It was just, if I had gone in there and tried to pitch Jerry, game over. Like, he doesn't introduce me to other people.
Got it.
And
so pick up on that. Everybody hear that. He didn't go in trying to pitch Jerry. You went in authentically trying to learn about him and get to know him. And instantly you got results.
Yeah. And Jerry's the type of guy, and you and I at this point in our careers, we get plenty of people who go, hey, can I pick your brain? Like, I be authentic asks actually rely upon specificity. So I called him and said, listen, the market's going crazy here. I've always respected you highly. I would love to understand how you have built a career that has gotten you to where you are. That's specific enough. That was specific enough for that conversation. And that's desperately what I wanted to know. So he came ready to give that. And he gave that. Not only that, he because he saw me actively listening, I took tons of notes. He went, this is the type of person. He saw me working at my craft in front of him.
Wow.
And so what was cool, and this is all in retrospect, I didn't know what I was doing. I fell into it. But I thought, how I show up to these conversations is totally different than how I'm showing up to lead generation. Lead generation, I'm trying to pitch. This, I got so much out of this conversation. It was amazing. Not to mention, and I didn't go in for business. So you're not going to have, not every one of these is going to be like that. But imagine if you had 5 of those a week. Do you think after 2 weeks, you wouldn't find somebody who could come close to that level if you're looking for the right person? And so that's what the book is about. I want to give you the lens of who Jerry actually is, right? What are the 3 or 4 things you're looking for in the type of person you're trying to meet with? Because this is not speed dating marketing.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the other side of it. Like, people go, oh, this is just rather, I said marketing, I meant networking. People go to networking events, it's passing out cards, and it's a lot of like backslapping and it feels like you're going to forget my name. This, people don't forget you because of how you show up.
Nice, man. So your best use of time, you're telling me, if I hear it correctly, if you said 5, I'll say 3 to 5. If agents watching right now wanted to reinvent how they are thinking about lead generation, and you and I don't think we even like the name lead generation anymore, do we?
I can't. I call it bad. Right in my voice.
I feel bad saying it. Forget that. So we're saying forget lead generation right now. What in the heck are we talking about? Pat's possible best use of time is to be in 3 to 5 meetings with people per week just to learn about them. And the double bonus is he learns about them, learns something, and that's good enough, by the way. If there's nothing else that comes from it, you learn something about somebody you didn't know before, but you tend to believe, and results have proven this, that they might be your 6. And so all you need to do to build a successful business, if I'm hearing it correctly, Pat, if you were in 1 meeting a day to learn about somebody, that's it? That's all you have to do?
Well, I think it depends. So yes, I mean, in a general sense, like if you did nothing else, you would do fine with that. Now, you might, if you did that and you just met with anybody, you might have 600 meetings to be able to find your 6, and you probably wouldn't have your radar up properly for the right people because you're in a talent game, right? So do you interview just anybody face-to-face for your team, or do you just put it out to the masses and anybody who comes through, you just interview them, or do you have a filter for that?
Okay.
And so I want to propose that you should have a filter for the people that you're sitting down with. I tell a story in the book, and for parents, this might resonate with you. You leave your family to go out and go do work. You have an obligation to your family to spend time. And the way I phrase it is, you have vulnerable people at home, which are your kids, right? They're trying to learn how to fend for themselves. The younger, the more vulnerable. And I had an obligation as a dad to go spend time with them, and I still do. In fact, as much time as possible, because you only get them for so long.
Yeah.
So every time I stepped out the door, I wanted to spend time with the most influential people I possibly could so that I could spend time with the most vulnerable people who happen to have my same last name in my home. My
Got it.
time, effort, and money goes to them. But when I step out that door, my time, effort, and money goes to finding influence.
So you're super strategic with who you're looking for. And I love how you're tying it into your personal life, because you're looking at is time is it's short. We get that. We know that. And so you're thinking, I better find the right people as fast as I can so that I can spend the time with those that matter most to me in the way that I want to do it. So I love that you're connecting the two, because it certainly gives you direction on the front end.
Right. And
And,
you just wrote a great book about this, right? About your fatherhood, right? About being a parent and the legacy that you're leaving for your kids. And so the legacy your kids are going to have. Dad was so, or mom was so obsessed with that next lead that I never saw him or her.
no.
Or are you going to leave a different legacy? I think we have an obligation when it's all said and done to leave that type of legacy. I love your book for that reason.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And it's, if you guys haven't read my book, please pick that up. This is your captain speaking. And for me, and as is for you, our top priorities are family. So we need to do what we need to do when we need to do it in the business space, so that we can spend that quality time with our families, because we don't want to miss it. I mean, you're in your cycle and I'm in my cycle. I got 2 kids in high school now, Pat. They're only under my roof for 4 more years. I don't want to miss it. So I often have conversations with people in our organization that it's do what you need to do when you need to do it. And I think it just leads to good things for the right reasons. So give us some, what's your favorite chapter in the book? What I'd love to ask that question. And most authors can't identify one, but I'm going to ask you if you can.
Yeah, they're kind of all your babies. And at the same time, all of their inadequacies as well, right?
Yeah.
So, I actually like the prologue and the epilogue most, because they were the last things that I wrote and they're deeply personal. So I end up talking about my business partner, John Kirk, who was one of the first people I taught this system to, and who then went out and absolutely crushed it in business. He came into my business, 6 kids, tons of mouths to feed. His industry in the legal service industry was going away because it was all going online, all going virtual. So talk about disruption, right? So he was disrupted so much that he had to shift industries. And he came in as an agent on my team and absolutely killed it. By 18 months in Montgomery County, he was the #1 salesperson in Montgomery County. Hard stop. He was doing really, really well,
Yeah.
and continues to do. And he actually earned his way into ownership this year.
Nice.
9 years later. So I tell that story because it's the most intimate I've been with somebody, and where the stakes were highest for him and his family to make sure that this system actually works. So I tell that story, and to me that was a lot of fun to tell that story.
I love that, man. That is so cool. And you and I have similarities in our work trajectory, and we both think the same way. You're super strategic. You wrote a whole book about it, which is awesome. But internally, we're talking about externally a little bit for finding your 6, but internally in your organization, you're thinking of it the exact same way. And that's how incorporated John Kirk and in the Jason Martin group. We got the same story with John Coleman, who we've also incorporated as a partner. And you can take it external, you can take it internal. And I think we've got, I'm lucky. I've got like 3 people internally right now that are part of, or maybe 4 people that are part of the 6. I'm 2 away, Pat. We're going to celebrate in 2.
Amazing.
So
you kind of look up and you go, wow, why are we having the success? And I recently did that and went, I think we're pretty close. We're at number 4, number 5 here, and as so people can grow into becoming your 6 as well. Doesn't happen overnight necessarily,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Sometimes when you're looking for external talent, um, and you're looking for influencers externally, it may happen right away, but that relationship may take time, like all good relationships really
Yep.
take time to mature and grow. So careful of the short term, like flash in the pan. Wow, this person's, this is really, really great. Like it's like you fell in love, went on a first date and got married in Vegas, like all at the same time. Like,
Right.
okay, that actually may not last very long. So careful. You got to keep investing in those types of relationships as well, as long as the ones that take longer to cultivate as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very important point that you bring up. Like these relationships, you're not just going to go to a meeting and that's it. Like these relationships are years in the making often. I don't want to gloss over that. It takes time to make sure the person you think is it. They can bear fruit sooner than years, but really deep relationships. Gosh, the more I hear this conversation, the more it just comes back to one thing. It's just all about people.
Absolutely. Yeah,
That's
it's
it.
about people, and the people you decide to put around you really matters. And how you think about the people that you're going to put around you really matters. You and I have talked about some of the criteria of the people that we allow into our organizations as well.
Yeah.
And so I oftentimes think, the most basic criteria is, could I put my kids around this person for a weekend and have my kids walk away better and
Yeah.
invested into? And if
Yeah.
that's the case, okay, that may be a high standard, but that's also who I'm looking for externally, right?
Yeah.
Because when that type of person puts their name to me and sends me out with a referral, or connects me to somebody else in their world, or decides to invest their money with me, that is a far more impactful relationship over the long term. What's also really cool about this, Jason, and as you build an organization, I know you value this immensely. Trust is transferable. Leads are not. Like okay, here's a lead, go run with it, right? But I can take a trusting relationship I've been cultivating for years, and I have, and give it to John Kirk. And my trust, because I've invested into that relationship, is actually transferable to him.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk in real estate a lot about 7th leveling your team. A lot of teams never do that. Why? Because they don't build enough trust. And so when they try to transfer the quote unquote book of business to somebody else, those trusting relationships, it fails.
Yeah.
And so, thinking long term about the goal of building a business is actually to allow other people to run it eventually. At least one of my definitions is that. And I think over the last 25 years, we've been sort of obsessed as an industry about this.
Mm-hmm.
How do you actually pass that on? Trust is transferable. And I get into that in the book.
You are, again, for our listeners, there's certain things Pat's saying that I really want you to take away from this. You don't have to take away everything from the conversation, but each time I talk to him, I'm grabbing little nuggets, and it is about pouring into those people authentically as well. So if you're listening and you're like, hey, he found John Kirk and incorporated him. Pat gave a piece of his soul to John Kirk, right? And I'm sure if we had John on, he would share that. I did the same with John Coleman, and like, we're giving these guys everything we have because we believe in them as people. We're pouring into them and they're pouring into us. It is totally a two-way street. So if you're out there like, I'm going to go find my 6 people, you better do it for the right reasons. You can do it other ways. I've seen organizations built that way. I don't want to build one that way. Pat doesn't want to build one that way, for sure. I'm also reading an interesting book. I bet you've read this book too, Pat. This happens to be what I'm reading right now, Who's in Your Room? It's a detailed look at how you decide who to let into your room and who's already in your room. So it's right.
I have not read it. I'll have to pick it up.
Yeah, it's an easy read. Do me a favor, Pat, and bring your book up so people can see it. I see it right behind you there, or maybe you got a copy in front.
I grabbed one here just in case you asked that.
Good man. Yeah, there it is.
Here.
So
find your 6.
Find your 6 with Pat Kilner. I can't. I need a signed copy, by the way. I'll text you my address. So you know what? I'm going to order it from Amazon and then get you to sign it. I'm assuming we're going to be on Amazon. Where are we going to be here?
Amazon.com is where you can get it most easily. Get it shipped to your house. also the Kindle version, and that's going to be followed by the Audible version, which I just cut, and is a little bit lagging, but it's, it'll be out there. Maybe not. I really wanted it to release at the same time, but you got to jump through hoops to do this, as you know, in writing a book. So I'm excited for that version. Had a lot of fun doing that.
Cool. We're going to do one quick exercise together, and we're just going to have fun with it. I'm going to say I, you say hate, I'll say lead, and you say generation. Okay. Did you get that? Okay. I
hate,
lead,
generation.
What the hell are we talking about? You've got to read Pat's book, Find Your Six. We don't like lead generation. I don't know. You better read the book. Pat, it's always a treat, man. And I value you very much as a friend. And guys, get his book. It will potentially have a massive impact on your life, not just in your professional world, but your personal world as well. Pat, it was a treat, my friend.
Jason, always a pleasure. Thank you, brother.
Passions.